welcome back, everybody. This is our second episode of Self-Care Summer. And for the month of June and a little bit of July, we're focused in on mental health care and taking care of yourself. And one of the biggest things that we're saying is, it's okay not to be okay. And for those that tuned in last week, thank you so much. For those that shared and viewed, we hope that, and the goal of this program over the summer is, if we can help one person every single day, that is the key. And I know you're not here to listen to me today, but this was incredibly powerful this past week, and some of the comments that we received back and some of the stories, it was amazing. And so how we're going to run this program going forward is very simply, we're lucky enough to have two individuals that we work with closely that have volunteered to tell their personal stories on some of the struggles that they've potentially had in their life. And then we have a wonderful professional to come on today to help us, just put some of those problems that we may have, just sort of help us with those and put some resources behind that. And so our first guest I'll introduce, we work with through Manulife and in the mortgage business. For those that aren't familiar and watching, we talk about life and disability insurance on every single mortgage transaction that we have. And Max is a phenomenal gentleman, always sort of smiling and just has one of those big presence, always wants to help. And so Max, I'm bringing you in. I don't want to tell too much of your story, but
hi, Trevor.
Hey, so hopefully you can hear me. Thumbs up on the hearing. We're good. Yeah, perfect. So Max, we've known each other for quite a period of time. And Max said this to me, he goes, I've known you for a long period of time, but I haven't known you. And I think we're going to make that transition in 2021 to get to know each other a little bit. We had the opportunity to catch up on more of a personal level last week, and I was amazed. I don't want to take away from your story because I want you to tell it, but to me, where you've been has made you who you are today. And so, Max, what I'll do is I'll turn it over to you. I'll shoot myself out, and let's hear your wonderful story that you have to tell us today. Thanks, Max.
Sure. Thanks, Trevor. Thanks so much. And I look forward to getting to know you a little bit better too this summer. So as Trevor said, my name is Max LaBelle. And if you've met me before, I'm not just some bearded street guy that Trevor picked up with mental health issues. This is my COVID beard and my wife likes it, so I'm going to keep it for a little while. And as Trevor said, I mean, I do have I have a story, just like probably everybody has a story. I put up all the jobs that I've had in the past, and that wasn't really to say, look at all the things I've done. That's really to say, geez, I've done so many things, and a lot of it has to do with mental health. Not finding a comfortable place, not necessarily doing what I want to do, and or just after time, just getting uncomfortable because of depression, anxiety sets in. So that was really my premise of explaining some of the jobs I've had and some of the adventures, and they've all been adventures, and it does make me who I am. I've been lucky to do a lot of pretty cool things, but everybody who smiles in your face may not be smiling behind closed doors. So and that's why we're here. We're here to get that out. My story begins, basically as a baby. I mean, I've struggled with PTSD and depression, anxiety my whole life. Stems, more or less from my mother. I lost my mother at the age of 8 months to suicide. She had tried many times before that. My brothers and sisters are all about 12 to 15 years older than me. I was a mistake, although I say they finally got it right at the end, but so they had to struggle through my mother's multiple attempts at suicide. She used to go to Belleville mental hospital, electroshock therapy, that kind of thing. And then, she had me, and unfortunately I lost her at a young age. I left my dad to raise 4 teenagers and an 8-month-old baby by himself. My dad was a pretty incredible guy, However, I grew up with him. I was more or less like a single child. And, we had struggles through the years. We didn't have much money. Things changed. He had been obviously hurt in some ways. And we never talked about my mother or any of the past. And so I went through most of my life kind of feeling like an only child, My brothers and sisters are great people too. They're like, my whole family's phenomenal. And through no fault of their own, I just had, I had to grow up kind of with, you know, some learning disabilities. And you know, watching Randy last week, he mentioned the same thing. I don't read either. I remember Rich Spence, you know, president of MCC, my old boss at MPP, and before that in Contact Software. I remember he actually put it in part of my bonus to read a book one year. And it was a good amount of money. And I still didn't read a book. So, you know, education was tough for me. And you know, but I did have an out, and that was sports. And you know, bit of a personality and a big mouth. So that kept me moving along. But I never understood why I had learning disabilities. I never understood maybe why I had anxiety. And you know, it just didn't come together. And then at about the age of 24, I lost my brother to suicide. He was 33 years old or so, had a baby, and took his own life. And that affected our family pretty deeply. We didn't see it coming, although there were warning signs, and we did get together as a family afterwards to make sure we understood those warning signs, so that it wouldn't happen to anybody else. And I committed myself from that point on to, you know, to be open about mental health, to be open about my challenges, to help anybody I could at the end of the day, and to not be shy about it, and to recognize it, because I had to break a cycle in my family. You know, I also lost a sister-in-law, my other brother's wife, to suicide when I was about 12, and you know, just a lot of mental health issues, and suicide was unfortunately a big part of it. So it had its effects on me, but it probably wasn't until, you know, I had a family at the age of 30 when pressure started to build, and you got to provide for your family, where the anxiety really started to take over. And once it took over, it was hard to shake. And even though I was open about it, you know, talked to people, I went into therapy off and on for a number of years, got on meds, of course, right, and antidepressant and anti-anxiety, tried various types, and was on them for about 10 years or so. Not up until I'm still on them. But you know, this pandemic really was well, it was tough on me. I was home every day. You know, there's anxiety from the fact of not going out and meeting clients. I'm a social guy, but at the end of the day, you know, it was taking its toll on me. And quite honestly, you know, over the past 25 or 30 years, or my entire life of fighting anxiety and depression, it was taking its toll on me. And because, you know, there's learning disabilities, there's lack of confidence, there's, you know, I would put up walls between my family and friends, and put up walls from potentially new friends. And that would even affect me as a BDM, right? As an account manager with my brokers. And because, you know, a lot of those people I would love to be friends with, but I just, you know, subconsciously would put up a wall. I'd let people get so far. And this goes for my family. This goes for my kids, my wife. I would just let people go so far, because my fear is always somebody's going to leave. And if I get too attached, I'm going to get hurt again. So, you know, that took me a lot of years to sort of realize that. And so that made it really hard. And again, when it came to the pandemic, I mean, you know, things were starting to wear on me. My wife's a nurse. She works at St. Joe's Hospital here. You know, she has a dangerous job, obviously, especially in the last couple of years. But I envied her for being able to go out, believe it or not. You know, from the standpoint of just going out and having a different environment to be in. So as it built on me, though, I started to inform my team, my manager, a little bit more that I was struggling. And in about November of 2020, I decided I wanted to stop my meds. I wanted to get off the meds, and you know, when you're on antidepressants and anti-anxiety, I think anybody who has been on them, you go through spells of thinking, I can do this without meds. I don't need these side effects, and you know, and just the feeling of having to take meds, right, to be stable. So you stop taking them, and there begins the roller coaster, right? And my wife's a very upfront person. Again, she's a nurse, so she knows when I'm off them, and she knows how I am when I'm off them, and so you just do that once, twice, three times a year. I would do that, and try and get through it, because I would be in therapy, be trying the different tools, mindful self-compassion retreats I've done, just about everything, right? And however, nothing really ever got to the root problem, right? And the root problem was really about a feeling of abandonment, of not having a mom, right? I mean, there was the 8 months I had her, but obviously she finally committed suicide at 8 months, so I'm sure those 8 months weren't happy for her. And so it's just the way it was, the way the cards were dealt, right? That's just the way it was. But again, loving family, there was no abuse of any kind. It was just circumstances. And so again, in November of 2020, I decided to get off my meds and tried to replace that with psilocybin. And I made a major mistake, and don't ever do this, but I went off my meds cold turkey. And the first month was phenomenal, and the second and third month were not so good. It's like quitting any drug cold turkey after taking it for so many years. It was detrimental to my mental state and everybody around me. So, but still working, and this is where the story gets a little bit interesting. I decided to try something different. And I think it's important that when you have mental health issues, if you're looking for help, that you look at all sorts of options. And the options are growing by the minute here in Canada as things become legal, as different ways of treating mental health come about. I mean, I've always been very honest with my therapists, and even my most recent experience, in that, at the end of the day, nobody really knows what to do. Medication is great, but you eventually can become resistant to treatment with meds. And if you're looking for a therapist, you might have to wait a while to find a good therapist. And then when you do, maybe that person doesn't work for you. There's not a connection. And then you got to start all over again. And then they're so popular that you only get to see them once a month. And, somebody with mental health issues, that doesn't maybe work. So, it's important that you continue to fight, continue to be open, and to have an open mind. And so my wife introduced me to an article about 3 years ago on research that they were doing with psychedelics and psychotherapy. And I know the word psychedelics is going to freak out a lot of people, but this type of therapy was very prevalent back in the 60s. The government put a halt to a lot of, obviously, psychedelics drugs and so on. And they stopped that type of therapy from continuing. So, as I've read a lot of articles, it's now legal in a lot of states, be it psilocybin and or ketamine is another popular one that they use. And, I followed it over the last 2 years, again, doing a lot of research. I asked my therapist if she knew anybody in Canada doing this, and it had just become legal in April of 2020 here in Canada. Now, psilocybin, as we know it, magic mushrooms, is not legal in Canada. They use ketamine. Ketamine is an anesthetic, been used to treat depression for over 40 years here in Canada. It's the only legal psychedelic, I guess you can say. It's synthetic, it's not organic. Psychedelic that's legal in Canada of its kind. So, I talked to my therapist. She introduced me to some people who are known as the godparents of this type of therapy in Canada. They're one of the few doctors who are regulated to actually provide psilocybin to cancer patients. The success rate of cancer patients when they take psilocybin is their mood swing to go from incredibly depressed to manageable, if not happy and totally changed, is about 70 to 75%. It's pretty incredible. And this type of therapy was also showing incredible results. I mean, there's nothing like it in the world, and even that's not completely understood. But I entered a program. I interviewed 3 doctors. I got accepted into every clinic, and even though I'm looking to do this, they interview me as well, and you have to go through really strenuous medical examinations, both mental, physical, and for them to understand if they're willing to accept you. So I got into 3 different clinics, and I chose one person in particular that I just hit it off with when speaking to them. I won't name what the other clinics were, but they just didn't work for me, and I'll just leave it at that. Because I think one of the main things when you enter something like this is you have to have a connection with your therapist, and I did. And so in April 15th of this year, I went on disability from work, which was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I've gone on disability in 2017 for a knee replacement, and then in 2018 for a knee replacement on my other knee. But to go on disability for mental health was different. But I was determined to not wake up tired anymore. I was, I was under the sheets most days, didn't want to get out of bed. But I have 3 kids, I have a dog, and I have a wife who's strong as hell. So, I would fight my way through it and get on the webinars and answer my calls to my brokers. But again, it got to a point where I was tired of fighting, and I was feeling exhausted every day. I was mentally fatigued, and suicide was creeping into my mind daily. And it's not, I wasn't thinking of doing it or where or how I would do it, but I was just thinking of it because it's so prevalent in my history. So I said, there's no way I'm going the next 20, 30 years like this. I am not spending the rest of my life, with a wall up between my kids and my wife. And I'm not going to do it. So, I found the doctor that I wanted. They advised me to go back on my meds, which I did. And on April 15th, I went on disability from work, and I entered a 6-week program with this doctor who's, fairly renowned, and he teaches a lot of the other doctors in Canada on this type of therapy. And so essentially, I won't go through every little bit of it, but I basically on a weekly basis would meet for 3 hours every Friday, do the psychedelic with them for 3.5 hours, and we would talk. And so I wouldn't always completely talk. Sometimes I would just be focused on the ketamine and kind of stay within. And the very first day I did it, I remember thinking, how am I going to tell this guy that it doesn't work? That this type of treatment doesn't work? I don't feel a damn thing. And I was completely negative on the whole experience. And he said that was normal after we spoke about it. And again, if there's one thing I did with this guy, it was to be all in. Call no bullshit, right? I'm all in. You hold me accountable, and I'll hold you accountable. And we don't mess around with bullshit or lies or whatever. I'll tell you exactly how I'm feeling, and if I don't like what I hear from you, I'm going to tell you. And so we did that. And not that I had a drinking problem or anything like that, but I was using alcohol probably too much for the last 30, 40 years, off and on. And so I stopped everything in between these treatments. And on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and 5th treatments, we increased the dosage, and we got down to it. And I remember taking the headphones off. It was headphones and blindfolds, and just start talking to him. And I don't know that I would say anything different than, and I know I wouldn't say anything different than what I said while I was on the psychedelic. But when you're talking about it and you're sort of resolving it, when you're under that state of mind, it acts like a reset. And you got to remember, for thousands of years, society has used different types of psychedelics for exactly that, as a restart, except there was never psychotherapy attached to it. So, what I found was each and every session was different, talking about different things. And on the 5th one of the 6th, I remember thinking to myself, I got nothing left to focus on, because we would always have, preparatory meetings on, before going under of what I wanted to accomplish. And I had nothing left to say. I mean, I'd said everything of what gives me anxiety, why it gives me anxiety. And so I remember the fifth one was great. Just basically talking about some different things. But the sixth session was the main one. And that's where we upped the dose even more. And this time I didn't talk to him at all. I stayed within myself. And I'm not advising this for everybody. And I want to preface this by saying he also does this through meditation as well. You don't have to take psychedelics to get to where I got. However, I did, and on the sixth treatment, the last one, as it were, I had the most spiritual, insightful moment of my life, hands down. I couldn't have written a better script for what happened. And, when you're under, you're out for 2.5 hours, but it feels like 15 minutes. And I just remember thinking to myself, you're there. This is it. This is where you wanted to be, and you can resolve everything right here, right now. I knew where I was. I knew what I was doing. I knew he was there. There's no tripping out and smoking cigarettes and dancing on the couch. He would pull you back in if you acted like that anyway. But I was under, and I just remember, basically I resolved just about every issue I had, and also thought of what the most important thing in my life is, which, I didn't know what the answer would be, but of course it's my wife and my children. And everything just came to place. And, funny enough, when you're under like that, you almost feel like it's a superpower. I remember thinking at one time, I'm going to be the best insurance salesman ever, and I'm going to use this superpower. And I went, screw that. I'm not going to do that. And then I remember thinking, I was picturing something, and I was thinking, where I am, I can solve the world's problems and think of why we're here and what our purpose in life is. And I went, forget that. And I just said to myself, focus on yourself. Just focus on yourself. And I did that, and I resolved everything. And I came out of that session. I'm only 5 weeks after that. And I have felt incredible ever since. Now, the whole thing with this type of therapy is you don't know how long it's going to last, right? At the end of the day. Right now, I feel great. I resolve things. I feel energetic. As well, before Christmas, I also found out I had diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and my wife is a kidney transplant nurse. So word of advice to anybody out there, don't get diabetes when your wife is a kidney transplant nurse. They don't like that. But I'm down 34 pounds and I feel phenomenal. And again, I don't know that it's going to feel like this forever, but I know I got to a place where I resolved it, and I know I can get back there again if I had to. So I'm not advocating psychedelics and psychotherapy. What my point to this is, of course, talk about it. Of course, be open about it, but keep your mind open to what's available to you out there. This is going to be a new world for mental health. And it's very expensive, but they're working on making it more affordable for people. So my story has a relatively happy ending right now. But my wife looks at me sideways, waiting for that roller coaster to come back. But right now I'm in a good place. But I just got to tell you guys, I mean, ups and downs and everything else, just stay with it. You're going to be okay. So I saw you coming on, Trev. I'm probably over my 10 minutes. I should.
There's no such thing. There's no such thing as going over your time when you're incredibly powerful story and just a lot to share there. And the one thing I'd say is you're not the only one that's going through this. So for you to share your story, and this is the idea why we're here, to share your story, there's several other people that are just watching on the live version right now, but all the other people that are going to be watching this under the replay because they're tied up right now, you're affecting change right now by opening up the conversation, Max. And one, just before I ask you a quick question here,
sure.
I want to thank you on behalf of the viewers and anybody who's going to be watching this, because that's incredibly powerful to go through a synopsis of your life in a very short period of time. In 10 or 15 minutes, it's really tough. But you've done it with grace, and you've sort of given us a decent idea. But the most important message there is that there's always help, and it's just a matter of reaching out. I do have one question for you.
Yeah, please.
And I think you can easily answer this one. And it's, why are you so passionate about sharing or creating awareness around mental health?
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, it is an easy one for me to say. Obviously, I've been through a bunch of traumatic events, and for me, it's about breaking a cycle in my family. I watch my children carefully. That even interrupted my raising my children. Right? I would think if I got them mad, they'd kill themselves, and I was thinking of that all the time. So, I'm passionate about it, obviously, because I experienced it. I've had it. I have it. I may have it the rest of my life. I probably will. But I'm passionate about it because I want people to not have a stigma attached to it anymore. It's not it's a sign of strength to come out and talk about your mental illness or any issue that you have or what you feel as some sort of disability. You're stronger for talking about it than not. And for anybody who says different, then they're just ignorant, plain and simple. And when you're open about it, people are there to support you when you need it. And me being open about it for 30 years, Trevor, everybody, my friends, my family, and especially Manulife at work and everybody I work with, over the top supportive. And they were there for me because they knew where I'd come from. And I'm passionate about it because people need to be open about it, not only for the sake of getting rid of the stigma, but that your friends and family will be there for you when you need them.
Max, you're 100% on, and just having the courage again to come on and share your story. I know we're going to have you back on closer towards the end here, but just a big thank you, and you have a ton of courage, to be able to do this and share this in front of not only the folks that are watching and those that will, but your friends, your family, your colleagues. That shows incredible fortitude, and I thank you for that. And we'll bring you back shortly if we can. But again, thank you so much.
And thanks for the opportunity, Trevor. It's a great thing that you're doing. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Max. And this isn't a me thing, just to make this clear, and I appreciate that. This is an initiative to start the conversation. This is all about you, to be honest with you. There's been a lot of conversation, and I think the pandemic has stressed out a lot of the self-care things that we need to focus in on, whether it be mental health, physical health, or financial health. And so, Max, again, thank you so much. I do want to bring in our next guest today. And for me, this is very personal as well. I've worked with this gentleman for about 8, maybe 9 years now, and just always been a really cool cat. And would talk about sports or the mortgage industry, and he's incredibly knowledgeable in the mortgage industry as well. But I didn't really know what he was going through. And I want to welcome in Kunal. Kunal, we've worked together for such a long period of time, and just not having a full understanding. But maybe this is part of what we're trying to open up here. Is not everybody knows what you're going through until they know it, and it's okay to have these conversations.
Yeah, it's absolutely vital to have these conversations. I don't think, especially in our industry, one that can be so stressful, mentally taxing at times. There's not enough attention or focus placed on mental health for us specifically. So definitely want to thank you guys for setting this up. When we were speaking a couple of weeks ago, and you were telling me about the self-care summer program, knowing that mental health was going to be one of the focuses made me really want to participate. It's a topic that hits home for me for a couple of reasons. One, I do suffer from a condition called OCD, which is obsessive compulsive disorder. Two, a member of my family does suffer from schizophrenia. And three, several years back, a good friend of mine actually committed suicide because of his own mental health condition. Unfortunately, we didn't find out until it was too late that he had been suffering in silence for months. So yeah, for me, that's why it really hits home. I don't really want to talk too much about what OCD is. I know it's something that is thrown out a lot when people joke about somebody having OCD, but it legitimately is a mental health disorder. Basically, it's characterized by having, you know, unwanted, intrusive thoughts, images that trigger really strong, distressful feelings. And the compulsion part of it is what somebody who has OCD engages in order to try and get rid of these obsessive thoughts and decrease their stress. In my case, it started late in my life. I think most people with OCD, it actually starts in your teenage years. For me, it was about 11 or 12 years ago. I had a very, I guess, traumatic event happen in my life personally, which seemed to be the catalyst or trigger for everything that was to come. And initially, all the unwanted thoughts or obsessions were all related to this traumatic event that I experienced. But soon after that, they morphed into other parts of my life. I would say about 11 years ago, there was a period about 8 to 10 months where my life came to a complete standstill. Couldn't function on a day-to-day basis, became a recluse, cut out friends, family, forget about work, like that was non-existent. And I was basically a non-functional person. It literally took every ounce of energy just to get out from under the covers, like Max was saying, every morning, just to get out of bed. And I was caught in this vicious cycle of obsession and compulsions that basically took over my life. Most of the compulsions were harmless in of themselves, but they took over my life where that's all I was doing every day for hours and hours on end. Some were a lot more harmful. There were things I was doing to my body, which when I look back now, are very scary. So eventually I sought help, you know, going through the medical system, which seemed unequipped to handle somebody with my condition. It took months to get a series of 2 appointments, which lasted all of 15 minutes. And I kid you not, the first appointment was 10 minutes and the second appointment was 5 minutes. And basically they just wanted to put me on medication, which was an antidepressant. I did try it for a couple of months, but just could not handle the way it made me feel. I was basically a zombie, so stopped taking it. Just decided it wasn't for me. But I got lucky. The psychiatric department at the hospital where I had my second appointment organized a support group. So I was able to participate in a support group for about 3 months with other people who were suffering from the same condition. And that was like a game changer for me. That was probably the most important thing to help me on my, I guess, road to recovery, if you will. Just being able to sit down and talk with other people who were suffering from the same condition and going through the same things that I was going through made a world of difference. One of the other things we learned in the support group was something called CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. It's something that, you know, individuals can do on their own to help with depression and other anxiety disorders. And it's something that I still use to this day. And it's made a huge difference for me. I don't want to take too much time. I just kind of want to sum it up, reiterating what everybody else is saying. It is really okay not to be okay. It is okay to talk about your own struggles and seek help. That's what made the difference for me. And I know it's tough. Coming from my own community, I know that this is not something, my ethnic community, I mean, this is not something that we talk about very often. So, you know, even talking about this with friends and family was hard because it's not something that's really accepted. But going through what I've gone through has changed me. It's made me a more empathetic individual. Having gone through it myself, I'm able to recognize certain behaviors that I see in others that I've experienced myself. And I've actually approached people that I hardly have known to have conversations with them because I saw they were in a bad place. So I guess just if you're suffering, if something's going on, reach out, talk to anybody, talk to me, give me a call anytime. And if you see somebody else going through something, take a few minutes and speak to them. It can make a huge difference.
Yeah, Kunal, you're one. Thank you for sharing, because I know it can be incredibly emotional when you're sharing that story. And I know, as a recipient of your message there, it's incredibly emotional for me right now. But I want to thank you again, just on behalf of anybody viewing this, because again, the whole idea behind this program is to, you know, open up the conversation, and it's okay. And there's always a helping hand there for you. If you just, all you have to do is say boo or say something, and there'll always be that helping hand for you. Do you mind if I ask you just a couple of quick questions that I have?
Yeah, 100%.
And really, you know, not to dwell on the pandemic that's almost behind us here, but did that affect you a little bit more over the last, say, 12 months? You know?
Yeah, you know, it was tough for me because I'm normally a very I'm a homebody. I'm a very private individual, so it was funny because now all of a sudden a lot of people that, you know, I know and talk to but don't talk to a lot, didn't have much to do with you know, with their spare time. So I was getting calls from all these people that I hadn't spoken to in years, and it was difficult for me because I don't really like engaging that much in social behavior. So just having to, you know, have conversations and speak to people all the time, especially with the Zoom calls. Zoom calls are something that I really struggle with. It's actually made it difficult for me. It's made it more difficult in a way that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, the one thing I know about you is you like to sort of face to face, have the handshake, and have a good laugh face to face. I know you always make the effort to go around and see folks when you can, or when it was acceptable to do so. And I look forward to that moment again. I'll just ask you sort of one more question, and I asked this of Max as well. I think it's probably obvious again for you, but not everybody knows this. Why are you so passionate about helping others with mental health and opening up the conversation?
Just because I know what a huge difference it can make to somebody, to speak to, or, you know, being able to speak to somebody about what they're going through. It can make the difference between somebody who is on the edge and maybe somebody who is contemplating suicide, somebody who just doesn't have any other resource or available to them. You know, anybody, they don't have anybody they can talk to, and it just make a world of difference. And knowing that there was one person in my life that helped me a lot when I was going through it, and it was a world of difference to me. Knowing that if you can do that for somebody else, then, you know, I think it's our responsibility to help everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, you know, well said, right? It's almost, it just comes from within, right? And I think we're all on the same page here as you, buddy. I really appreciate this. Hang on, we're gonna bring you back, and you know, just sort of wrap this all up, and hopefully we get some good further engagement. But I just want to thank you again. Incredibly powerful. We work together, and we have for a period of time, and you always have a helping hand in me whenever you need to. I don't care what time of the day it is. It's you know, you're my pal, right? So thanks, Kunal. Appreciate it.
Vice versa. Anybody in the brokerage ever needs to talk, just give me a call.
Thanks, buddy. We'll bring you back shortly. Okay, well, as I said, that was incredibly powerful for me, but part of the program, or however part of the program here is to hear and understand that the people that we work with or our family members are going through some things. And, you know, you never know, as Kunal said, and I think Max said it as well, you never know what somebody else is going through in their day. And so just, you know, being a little bit more compassionate. And it's one of those things that we have to focus in on a little bit more each and every day, especially as we start to see each other face to face once again, and we're allowed to do so in a very safe manner. But part of this program is also helping you out with some resources as well, some takeaways. And so today we have Lisa Scandalari with us, and I'm going to bring her into the stream. Lisa, how are you today?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, Lisa. I want to sort of introduce you for the folks that are watching and for those that will be watching later. But Lisa's been practicing yoga and meditation for over 22 years. She's trained and certified in all different acronyms that I'll flash on the screen a little bit later for you, but they seem really, really cool. The one thing that I read about Lisa, and I actually went to her website, is she's a big believer in the use of technology as well. And as we develop as humans, meditation, as an example, has been around for a long period of time, but also utilizing the technology is key as well. The one thing I also read about Lisa is that she's constantly, getting better at her practice every single day, and that's always important because there's a lot of folks that, and we've heard from two previous that are always looking to be helped. And so, Lisa, I'd love to turn it over to you and sort of listen to what you're going to share with us today. And thank you so much for being here and providing us with resources.
Thank you so much, Trevor. This is an honor, really a true honor to be here today, just to, help those, that have that heaviness and that are suffering. So, like Trevor said, I am Lisa Scandalari of Lisa's Yoga here in Niagara, and I teach in the Niagara region. I also teach internationally as well. Been to New Mexico and a few other areas. And of course, for studies, I'm always into studies. And I'm here to share with you how to relieve anxiety. And I've heard that today in these two speakers. It is a common thing these days. I hear it so much, and I'm here to help you, to give you a few little tools to help to relieve this anxiety and to really invite peace and calming into your being, because I believe that every single one of us, happiness is our birthright. And so we have to develop that, because we know that what stress does is it weakens our immune system. And we can't change the experience around us, but we can change the experience of our own experience. So let us today have this opportunity just to come together and have a different experience, have an open mind. We must become those calming lights, those calming guiding lights for our friends, for our loved ones, for our families, for our colleagues, for our workmates. So, it's so important because they too, feel the effects, right? When we're not feeling happy, or if we are down and depressed, or if we are in a situation where the anxiety, has risen and there's so much triggers. So what I'd like to do for you today is to really help you to regulate your body, your mind, your spirit, and most important, your nervous system. Because what will happen is, through these very simple techniques that I'll guide you through, which won't take long, it will restore your nervous system. And we need to sort of get back to that, right? Because, we can't always be in that space of, the sympathetic nervous system or that fight and flight back and forth. We're always, every single soul is looking for a neutral space, neutrality, I call it, that neutral, right? And feeling good within themselves. And so that's where, if I can, take you into a few breath techniques today, it'll help you to really calm and connect with your parasympathetic nervous system, right? We want to be in that space. So it's that relax and restore, right? So that's what the restore is. And another thing is it will stimulate your vagus nerve. Now, your vagus nerve is one of those nerves that, runs through your whole body, which will help you to relax your entire being and keep you in the presence of, the moment, so that we're not caught up, in the past or the future. We want to be present, right, in this space right now. So being in the now and being in your body. We have been around people that, we can see they're in their body, but they're just not right in their mental state. And so these simple techniques will help a lot. And what it will do is it will relax the body, which which we want it to happen, right? We want it to relax your body. And we want to relax because what happens is we feel, all of us all feel when we're upset or if we are suffering with something, there's that little tight knot we get in our tummy, right? In our gut. And it's all pulled really tight. So it will start to relax the muscles. It will start to relax, your body. And as well, most important, it'll feel good in your heart. So your heart's not always so heavy. So I hope you're ready to join me and have this experience. Let us together today be a part of the solution to heal. And that's my passion, is to help souls heal their hearts. So I'm going to invite you to join me, just to close your eyes and just maybe place your hands resting, in a comfortable position, whether it's on your knees or on your lap, whatever feels good. Resting on your desk, right? And just close those eyes. And inhale completely. And just surrender to the softness of your own breath that is entering and leaving your lungs. Just feel that breath. That's right. Let your mind just become absorbed in the sound of the inhale and the sound of the exhale. I'm going to play this little soft, gentle piece of music. I hope you can hear it. And just follow that breath as it arises, and each breath as it passes. And just sense that first moment of that incoming breath. And sense that very last whisper of that outgoing breath. That's right. Just watch the breath as you might watch the waves of the ocean, changing from moment to moment. How deep, how shallow, how long, how short, how smooth. Now, let's see if we can try to draw in that next breath longer and slower. So start to bring it in. Just sip it in really gently, really slowly, holding now that breath to the same duration if you possibly can. And then exhale the breath, same slow and duration as you possibly can. So it might be 8 seconds, might be 5 seconds for some, might be 10 or 20. So again, inhale very slowly through your nose, eyes are closed. Hold that precious breath. Exhale the breath. Beautiful. Let's continue. And just feel the freedom of your own emotional body, your mental body, your physical body. Inhaling slowly to that special count. I'm going to say 8-second count. Holding for 8 seconds. And exhaling for 8 seconds. And just continue. And of course, the goal is one day, that is one day, to get to 20 seconds. So the goal is to always draw in the breath slow, holding, and exhaling the breath slow. They say that if we can slow our breath down, so too we will slow the thoughts down. And then we can move into that special space. I'm going to say meditation. That is where we stimulate our glands. And the most important one is our pituitary gland and our pineal gland. So when our pituitary gland is stimulated through meditation, it also secretes the pineal gland that brings you into that neutral state. And from that neutral state comes, that peaceful place, that calm place, right? And that's where we want to be as human beings. And now let's take a deep breath in. Hold it. And exhale the breath out. Just take those hands now, gently open your eyes and just open up your hands. Spread them wide. Yeah. And let's just move the hands just like so. So we begin to create movement. Movement, of course, is fantastic for circulation, right? But movement of energy. So we move some energy that has been weighing on your heart center. And when it weighs on our heart, it occupies our mind, right? So keep going, keep moving just like so. Simple movement, right? Perfect. I'm going to take you into this next breath. And this next breath is for stress. It is for anxiety. And it's one that I teach to a lot of people, like especially those with trauma in that field. And some of my yoga students that, call or text and say, I'm having a hard time right now. Can you please help me? I can't catch my breath, and now slowly lower the hands. Take a moment. Can you feel that energy? I know, tingling, right? Yeah. And so, I help students in many ways. I had one that called once on their cell phone on their way to work. And she just said, Lisa, I said, hello, she says, Lisa, I'm not doing well. I go, what's going on? I had to pull over. I'm having this anxiety attack. And I said, oh my God, tell me what's going through your mind, and we talked about it. And then I said, okay. So we talked it all out. And then we brought the awareness of the breath in. And then we talked about it after the breath and how she felt. She felt safe enough to get back into the car, start the car up, and move on. Other than that, I would have gotten the car and went to rescue her and brought her home. But let me share with you, this segmented breath helps clear the mind, and it helps gives you that conscious control over your emotions and your psychological state, especially when you're in that state. You're not sure, even where your boundaries are, or what even triggered, right, you at that time. So the segmented breath is a ratio of breath. So you have to sniff through your nostrils, 4 sniffs in to 1 long exhaled breath. So that's why it's called segmented breath, because you're sniffing in the inhalation, the 1 inhalation. And then the exhale is 1 long exhale. So it sort of sounds like and looks like this, in case that wasn't too clear. But it looks like this. So I'm going to relax my hands down on my knees. I'm going to gently close my eyes. So sniffing in through your nose, 4 sniffs. So it looks and sounds like this. One exhale through the nostrils. So join me and let's just see what happens just after 2 minutes. See, 2 minutes, if you can do this with me for 2 minutes. I promise you, you will have an amazing effect. All right, let's give it a try. Are we ready? All right, so close your eyes, spine straight. 4 sniffs in and count in your mind. It's all through the nostrils, sniffing in, 4 sniffs in, slow sniffs in, and 1 long exhalation. And just continue it. Already, you probably even noticed from when I first started to like the 4th round that my whole system just settled into that space. We're recognizing more and more. Science is showing us, so much that how meditation does help. Even if counting through that sniff, 1, 2, 3, 4, especially if you have a busy mind, right? There's always those that have those busy minds. So then you're occupying your mind by counting. And eventually, what will happen is you won't need to count. You'll just naturally, there won't be any more thoughts, maybe just the odd one, right? And you'll be in that really wonderful, peaceful space. And let's just finish that up. And now deeply inhale. Sustain that breath. Keep it in. And exhale the breath. And just take a few moments to pause in that space and recognize just how your body feels right now. We are recognizing, just how much our nervous systems are becoming so thin with the pandemic, with all the stresses of life. And if we can continue to strengthen our nervous system by introducing different tools, having an open mind with different breath techniques, somatic movement techniques, some sort of meditation, whether it's sound therapy, whether it is mantra work, meditation, any meditation, that can help you to bring you out of those spaces and really tap into connecting with your heart and having that light to shine for everyone else, for self first, self-healing, and then everyone else.
Wow, that was absolutely amazing. I feel very relaxed now. Of course, I probably broke everybody's, calm and peaceful by coming back in here. But Lisa, thank you so much for those techniques, because I know for the folks that are probably watching that are at least in our industry, I can relate to this. Anxiety is a big thing that goes on, and trying to get that deal done for your client and the stresses that go on behind the scenes and the back and forth with the lenders, and it can keep going and going and going and going. And so we deal with a lot of anxiety in our industry just because we all care about our clients at the end of the day. So it's important to take that time, as you said, and use some of the techniques that you've shown us today. And we've sort of put your website on the bottom there. So for folks that want a little bit more information, you can find Lisa at her website. And I know there's a contact page or section there. And do you do virtual stuff like you're doing today? Has that become more of a common practice for you?
Actually, Trevor, it has been, since the pandemic, I've been helping out a few facilities, Heart and Stroke Foundation, the Trauma Place here in Niagara, and as well as I've been teaching my own practice, regular classes through virtual at this time. And how great we're allowing now to be going outdoors. So I'm offering the sound therapy meditations right now. I have one coming up this Saturday, actually, at a close by winery called Henry of Pelham. And you can find out that on my website on the events page.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. So there you go. I know a few of the folks will probably check that out. And we after we ran the first week of this program, we recognized that a lot more folks watch it at different hours of the day. So I know that you may be getting some reach outs from those folks that are watching it. But just on behalf of all of us, I just want to thank you for being here, and you've been incredibly gracious with your time and helping us with a key takeaway. And breathing is one of those things that can help all of us, no matter who you are, whether you're having some troubles with your mental health right now or not. It's sometimes it's just a matter of taking that little bit of a break, resetting and rethinking. So Lisa, thank you so much for being here today. And what I want to do is I want to bring the entire group back if I can. Here we go. I'll bring in Max and I'll bring in Kanal. And, on behalf of the team, the group, probably everybody listening or about to listen, I want to thank all three of you. It's been incredibly helpful, I believe. I know you're probably going to get individuals reaching out to you directly. And maybe I can speak on behalf of the three of our speakers today that, we all agree on one thing. If we can help one person out there, then this program has become a successful program. Please share this with any of your friends, family, work colleagues, because we never know who needs a helping hand out there. So on behalf of all of us, thank you everybody for watching. Enjoy your day. And if you're looking for Lisa, you can find her at lisasyoga.com. I'll flash it on the screen one more time.
Thank you.
And thank you again, everybody. We'll talk soon.